You know how they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions? Well, we're all familiar with that idea. But what if I told you that sometimes the very solution designed to fix a problem is the thing that makes it 100 times worse? It sounds completely backward, doesn't it? How can you try to fix something and end up with more of the very problem you were trying to get rid of? It seems impossible, but you'd be surprised how often it actually happens.
To really get our heads around this, we need to travel back in time. Picture this. You're in Delhi, back when it was part of the British Empire, and the city has a serious and frankly a terrifying problem. It's absolutely overrun with venomous cobras.
Yep, this is the classic story that gives this whole crazy phenomenon its name. And it's just the perfect example of how a smart-sounding idea can go spectacularly wrong.
So let's break it down. The problem was clear, simple, and dangerous. Too many deadly snakes slithering around the city. It was a major threat to public safety, and the government knew they had to do something fast.
And their solution? Well, on the surface, it seemed pretty brilliant. Let's offer a cash bounty for every dead cobra someone brings in. It's simple economics, right? You want less of something, you pay people to get rid of it. And for a little while, it actually seemed to be working.
But, and this is a huge but, they overlooked one critical factor: human ingenuity. See, people are clever, and they quickly figured out, hey, why go through all the risk and trouble of hunting wild cobras when we could just breed them? And just like that, a whole cottage industry of cobra farming popped up, all to cash in on that government bounty.
So eventually, the authorities caught on and pulled the plug on the whole program. They canceled the bounty, and what did all these new cobra farmers do with their thousands of now totally worthless snakes? Well, they just opened the cages and let them go. The result? The cobra population in Delhi absolutely exploded. There were way more snakes than before they even started. The solution was a catastrophe.
This wild story isn't just some historical oddity. It's actually a textbook example of a really powerful idea in economics and policymaking: the perverse incentive.
And that story is exactly where we get the name, the Cobra Effect. It describes the special kind of failure, where a solution doesn't just fail to work, it actively becomes the engine that makes the original problem even worse.
And the mechanism that drives this is the perverse incentive. It's when you create a reward to get people to do something good, but it accidentally encourages a totally different, counterproductive behavior that just sabotages the whole plan. And the thing is, people aren't being malicious, they're just logically responding to the system you created.
And if you're thinking, okay, that's a crazy story about snakes, but that was a long time ago. Well, think again. The Cobra Effect is all around us, once you know what to look for. Just take a look at these. In 1902 Hanoi, a bounty was offered for rat tails to deal with a rat infestation. What happened? People started catching rats, chopping off their tails for the money, and then releasing the rats to go breed and make more tails. Sound familiar? Or take rent control, a noble goal, keep housing affordable. But it can lead to fewer apartments being built and existing ones falling apart. And in education, a huge focus on standardized tests can pressure teachers to just teach to the test, which can squeeze out actual critical thinking.
Let's just zoom in on that rent control example for a second. The goal is fantastic: protect tenants, keep homes affordable. But when you look at the incentives, if landlords can't charge enough to cover costs and make a profit, their motivation to maintain buildings or, and this is key, build new ones just plummets. Over time, the housing supply can shrink and the quality can drop, making the original problem even worse.
So, this all leads to the really big question, right? Why does this keep happening? What's the fundamental flaw in our thinking that turns these good intentions into such bad outcomes?
The core issue, almost every time, is a failure to think in systems. We tend to treat a problem like it exists in a vacuum. We see one thing we don't like and we try to change it, without thinking about how it's connected to 1,000 other things. Especially the most unpredictable part of any system: clever human beings looking out for their own best interests.
And this failure leads to a very predictable pattern of people gaming the system. It almost always follows these steps. First, a new rule is made. Second, smart people immediately look for the easiest path to the reward. Third, they start focusing only on maximizing that reward, forgetting all about the original point of the rule. And finally, the entire goal gets sabotaged by the very system designed to achieve it.
This happens so often, it even has a name: Goodhart's Law. And this quote says it all. The second a measure, whether it's dead cobras or test scores, becomes the target everyone is chasing, it stops being a good measure of what you actually care about. People will optimize for the target itself, not the real-world goal it was supposed to represent.
Okay, so this all might sound a little bleak, I know, but understanding the problem is the first step to avoiding it. So how do we design smarter solutions that don't end up backfiring?
Really, the key is to be more deliberate. Instead of just jumping in with a big, bold plan, we need to think about the entire system. Test ideas on a small scale first, with a pilot program. We have to be ready to change course if things go wrong. And maybe most importantly, we have to ask ourselves one simple, powerful question before we do anything. How could a clever person gain this system for their own benefit? You have to think like a cobra breeder.
So the takeaway here is not to get cynical and give up on trying to make things better. It's actually the opposite. It's a call to solve problems more intelligently, with a healthy dose of humility, and with the foresight to think about the consequences we don't intend.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We are surrounded by well-meaning attempts to improve our world, our companies, our lives. But now that you know about the Cobra Effect, you can ask the crucial question: are we really looking at the whole system, or are we just paying for more cobras?